Okay, so here we are inside of Nuke. First thing you want to do is go to your project settings and enable assist, like I already showed you. So this should be enabled, it is. Then we can type in a read node and import our different render elements, foreground, midground, and background mountains. And make sure you turn on sequence, so you import the sequence. So basically all the frames of your timeline. Make sure also that the color space of your EXRs is ACCG, but it should be it. Okay, so looks pretty cool. One thing I noticed is that the camera move might be slightly too fast, but it's still okay, I think, for now. If it turns out to be too fast, the only thing I will do is probably simply make the shot a bit longer and to push back the keyframe a bit on the timeline, but for now it's fine. So here I'm using a merge node to basically layer my different elements exactly like I had inside of Maya. And you can leave the mode of the merge node by default on over. And what's gonna be on top of the stack is gonna be obviously the foreground, so that's gonna be plugin A, and then on B, the midground. Then you can import another merge node, same mode as the other one, over, and you basically stack the elements in a logical way. Okay, so, and for our background elements, I'm gonna show you guys now how you can build a projection setup, because as I said, even though I rendered the whole sequence, I'm gonna do a projection for this one. So, the first thing you wanna do is create a scene node if you wanna do a projection setup. So, hit tab and type in scene. Then another thing we will need is a skyline render to render our scene. We will need a camera, which is gonna be our shot cam, and we also need a projection shader. So that is a project 3D shader node, sorry. And you also need the regeo geometry if you want to import some proxy geometry, which we will do. And I'm also gonna create a card for the moment, because it's always easier for us to set up your setup using only cards rather than proxy geometry. So let's plug in the scene node inside of the skyline render. Let's plug the shot cam inside of the skyline render. And here you want to take this read from file and you want to go search for your shot cam. So you can go back into Maya and export it as an FBX, for example. You could do also a Lambake. Make sure animation is enabled because you want to have the whole animation, not just one frame. And then you can go back into your camera node and import your shot cam as an FBX. And now you should have it inside of your Nuke script. And as you can see, it's blue, meaning that it's animated, so the animation got exported properly. Let's just rename this properly to shot cam, for example. And then we can plug in our regeo node. So yeah, I'm gonna use a regeo node for the moment, and I'm gonna go back to Maya to export my geometry. So yeah, let's go back to Maya, and same, we're gonna export our geometry as an FBX or as an OBJ, doesn't really matter in this case. Yeah, I'm actually gonna select the ground plane as well, and just hit export selection. Name this properly once again. I'm gonna export this as an OBJ this time. Hit export selection, and then same process as with your shot cam. You're just gonna simply click here and import your OBJ. So really simple for now. And once that is done, what you can do is then plug in your project 3D node onto the geometry, and then you plug in your image inside a project 3D node. So one thing that we are still missing is a camera here. That is going to be a projection cam. And in this case, it just makes total sense to take the last frame probably, because this is like the hero frame. The only thing that will happen is that we will miss coverage, but let's deal with that later. So I'm gonna duplicate my shot cam at the last frame, get rid of the animation. So that's what I did. I right-clicked and clicked on no animation or all knobs. Then you can plug that camera, which is our projection cam once again, inside of the project 3D shader. Let's see how this looks. And now we have our last frame of the sequence that is projected. Cool. So this is quite nice. Obviously, we're lacking coverage, and that makes total sense. So what we will need to do is either do patches, or we can simply do one massive projection using Orviscan. First, let's just add our projection setup to the stack. So same, I'm using a merge node. And I'm going to plug the projection setup inside of B, because this is what is going behind our midground and foreground elements, obviously. So let's quickly try to do a previous to see how this looks. Once again, depending on your system, it might take a bit longer, or it might be faster to calculate the previs. Yeah, and by the way, guys, if you have like a more limited machine, just try to go maybe for a shot that is a bit less long, a bit lighter overall. In my case, I have an OK machine, so I'm doing something quite heavy. Just so you guys know, you don't have to do the same stuff as I do. Okay, so pretty cool, pretty cool. And obviously, as you can see, we're lacking coverage on the left. But it's really not too bad. I mean, from what I see, we'll definitely get away by doing simply a little bit overscan. So it's probably gonna be a single projection for the background and for the sky. So really nothing too complicated. So what I'm maybe gonna do next is also render actually my sky. Or actually, let me quickly go back to Nuke and reorganize my script a little bit. Because you wanna keep your stuff as readable and clear as possible. Because you may, and actually will probably have to pass on your script to other people. So what I'm gonna do here is, first let's just replace those background mountains geometry by the card. And the reason I'm doing that is, it's because the mountains that I'm gonna paint obviously will not have the exact shape as the geometry that I imported. I just imported the geometry of the mountains just so I know where in 3D space they should be. So now I can see here my mountains in the 3D space, and according to that I can move the card to the same placing basically in 3D space. There you go. And I will probably not need to do anything more complex than the card for those background mountains, because the parallax really is not that high, so we'll get away with that just fine, I think. So here I'm duplicating my projection setup, and I'm just gonna replace the background image by my backplate actually, which is gonna be our sky. And for this, I'm not gonna use a card, I'm gonna use a sphere. The reason for that is that the sky is not only in the background. I mean, if you go outside, the sky is also just above you. So you want to have a sphere to give the illusion of depth, basically. Just increase the size a little bit. I'm just eyeballing the scale for the sky here, but it should be fine. And a little tip here, if you want to increase the parallax between one or two elements, well, all you have to do really is to push the geometry more into the background. Let's see how this looks into 3D space. So here is our sphere, and I don't see the projection. I don't exactly know why at this point. I'm suspecting it might be an issue of near and far clip planes, probably. So that might happen. Let me quickly try to troubleshoot this. So yeah, I'm not gonna cut, just so you guys see, this stuff happens all the time. So let's try to troubleshoot this. So yeah, it's probably the near and far clip planes that need to be tweaked a little bit. Let me see how this works exactly. Okay. Okay, so at this point I haven't found the issue quite yet. But I'm almost sure it's a camera problem for sure. Okay, here we have it. Okay. So yeah, it was indeed the near and clip planes, but it's just that my sphere was too big. But so, okay, cool. So here we have our sky, and same as you can see, we're also lacking coverage, which is normal, so don't freak out. Let's try to previous this once again. Okay, so it's pretty cool.